Hey, what's up guys? So the following video is about an hour and a half long. Before I crack into it, I've uploaded the audio only version. So if you were about to head out to the gym or go for a walk, or you're going to be in rush hour traffic on your way to work, and you wanted something to listen to on your smartphone on the go, audio only, the audio only version of the following video, it's really just a podcast, but the audio only is available for free using the free Red Pill Philosophy smartphone app. It's a smartphone app you can download. Download it onto your smartphone, iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, etc. You download the free Red Pill Philosophy app, and you can listen to the audio only on your smartphone on the go. You're about to hit the gym, you're about to head out somewhere, pop in the headphones, portable, take it with you, keep you occupied, keep you with something to do. Again, the link to the free Red Pill Philosophy app is below. Check it out. Thank you.
What's up, what's up, what's up? Red Pill Philosophy audience. Are men becoming obsolete to women? Will men be weeded out as women find fewer and fewer needs for their male counterparts? Let me start this off by reading a couple tweets I sent out the other day. Tweet 1. In our hyper-competitive world, women get their fix of alpha male at bars and clubs. They haven't moved on from men, they just raised the bar. Tweet number 2. Women, now they've got a job and money. She doesn't need to grovel to men to survive. Now she can fulfill her deepest 50 Shades fantasies every Friday night. Next tweet. Is this a bad thing? No, because that'll make judgments on competition. It is what it is. Evolve or die. Don't whine like Elliot Rodger did. Think about it. Machines do so much manual labor now. This used to be men's domain. Now it's robots' domain. Men are becoming obsolete to women. The next tweet, we have this view that women only want monogamy, but they probably never really did want monogamy. Instead, dependence on men made them want monogamy for support, not necessarily because they wanted to be with just one man. But being with one man, getting loyal, getting faithful, becoming married to him, granted her financial support over the long term. Next tweet. Monogamy wasn't women's first choice, it was probably their second. Ideally, they probably wanted to be independent and enjoy sexual variety. Next tweet. One good thing is, this means the end of marriage. I think this is all a good thing. Survival no longer requires us to settle for less. You know, I always believed that marriage was settling for less. It doesn't make sense to me. I think if you love somebody, you don't need to tie them down in some marriage contract where they have to be with you till death do us part. Even when you're questioning whether or not you want to be with them, you have to be with them anyways. And there's legally binding contracts. The way I see it, if you love somebody and you were really sure you were going to be together forever, why would you feel the need to create a contract to ensure you stay together? The very act of getting married or getting a marriage contract to tie the person down to you implies you don't think it'll work out in the future, and you need a legal and or contractual binding to ensure you stay together. So yes, this is the essence of what this is going to be about, this discussion, this talk. I'm in my sandals right now. It is nighttime. Actually, it's like 6:30, but right now here in Miami, 6:30 is fucking nighttime. Daylight savings horseshit. And, walking around in my sandals. It's Miami, so weather's been a bit cool lately. Even the humidity has dropped, which is always nice. Drop in humidity means that everything's kind of crisp and not moist and damp like it always is here in Miami. And it's actually a little chilly. so it's beautiful. You can imagine Miami weather plus kind of like a cold chilly. It's a winter wonderland as far as we uncultured Miamians are concerned. Fucking 70 degrees is fucking, might as well be an avalanche burying you to death. So here we are, the discussion. Well, are men becoming obsolete? Are men becoming obsolete? On one level, it's definitely true that the more independent women become, well, by the very definition of being independent, the less she depends on men. A woman with a job, a woman with her own income, doesn't need to grovel to men. And again, I'm not judging, just pointing out observable facts. I don't think it's a bad thing. To me, the ideal world is where everybody, as many people as possible, do become independent. Codependence creates bad conditions for people. When you're codependent, you lack strength. When you lack strength, you're more likely to do things out of desperation. And arguably, women's tendency for many, many years now, or this perception we have that women like marriage and they like the Prince Charming, the loyal man that they can trust. Maybe women never really actually like that. And again, I'm kind of generalizing here. I'm sure there's some women who genuinely like it. Kind of as a general statement. Maybe the only reason we think women like marriage, because that's like the common cultural theme. Women, they watch their Disney movies and they fantasize about the prince who will love them forever, unconditionally, blah, blah, blah. But maybe they didn't actually like monogamy. It was just something they did out of desperation. Because if we start going back throughout history, men always had the mechanistic, utilitarian advantage. They were stronger. They were more rugged, generally speaking. They could go out there and get resources, whereas the woman had a monthly period. The woman was physically generally weaker. If she ever got pregnant, that's 9 months of her life where she's basically inept. I mean, if we're talking about survival out in the fucking jungle, caveman days, tribal days, not too long ago, we're talking about a pregnant woman. She can't be out there hunting. That's too dangerous. And she's at a severe handicap and disadvantage. So throughout history, men have kind of had the advantage of being the more independent, the more capable of going out and achieving things. But now, as men have kind of fucked themselves because men created machines. See, machines have liberated both genders. With machines doing all the hard manual labor, with factory farming where no one has to hunt anymore, men, in their efforts to please women, created machines. They created and built the comforts of modern society using the intelligence of men and the inventions and then the physical innovations in engineering. They created all of these things. A lot of it was for the women in their lives. Obviously, it was also for the kids, but it was also obviously, from a biological perspective, for the women in their lives. Their wives, the women they wanted to impress, girlfriends, etc. And then, ironically, what men created to benefit women, and themselves too, but it was also in the interest of women, is now liberating everybody to the point where men have liberated everybody into obsolescence. Now, it's not necessarily to say that men are truly obsolete. We're not really truly obsolete, but certainly female dependence on men is dropping significantly. She goes out, she gets her own job, she makes her own money. How much of women throughout history and their desire to be monogamous, to be with one man, how much of that was just her acting out of survival? Maybe because she was less physically, exceptional than men. She chose to kind of serve a man to take some of his resources. She couldn't go out and hunt. If she was pregnant, or she's a general woman, or the general state of society at the time where women weren't expected to hunt. So she in a sense, what if women over time generally didn't really want monogamous relationships, but instead they just settled for monogamous relationships out of desperation because they were codependent? Maybe women don't like the knight in shining armor. Maybe they don't want one guy. Maybe they like sexual abundance just as much as men do. And as long as a woman has her own job, has her own money, and doesn't have to grovel to a man to get through the day, maybe she's not going to grovel to men. This idea that women should serve men, or that women like to serve men, maybe the only reason they ever liked doing it in the first place was because they had to in order to survive. Give the guy some pussy, and he'll reciprocate with a piece of meat off the deer he hunt. Again, I'm not trying to say that women never genuinely loved the men they were with. I'm not trying to say that women don't like sex with men. I'm not trying to say that women strictly had sex with men or served them or got into monogamous relationships with. I'm not saying that they did that strictly as a way to survive. But what I am saying is, as they become more independent, they don't need men as much as they used to. And of course, that lack of codependency, well, you get what we have today. Some people say that the average modern Western woman is a highly privileged woman, privileged white woman. And when you think about it, I mean, Western women are some of the most privileged. I mean, whereas in the Middle East, women are fighting for the right just to not wear a burqa, in America, women are fighting for the right to not get hit on by men on the streets who want to give them money for sex. What an evil crime. By money for sex, I mean, here's a free dinner. Here's a free dinner, please give me sex. That's the implicit expectation of a lot of men who hit on women. Because a lot of men use their financial resources to essentially buy a woman's pussy. I mean, any woman who accepts a free dinner from a man, aware that the free dinner is essentially a way to buy her pussy, that makes her a prostitute. And again, I have nothing against prostitutes. I have nothing against prostitutes or prostitution. But I mean, what's the difference between giving a girl $50 for a blowjob and taking a girl on a dinner for a $50 tab and she blows you later that night? There's really no difference fundamentally. It's prostitution. Most women are prostitutes. It's inevitable. It's inherent. It's not even a questionable thing. But see, that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all prostitutes. And by prostitutes, I mean whether you're exchanging value for sex. Look, if you're a guy and you give a girl money for sex, that's not much different than if you're a guy who works out, gets in great shape in order to attract a woman for sex with your hot bod. There's not much of a difference there. At the end, fundamentally what it is it's an exchange of value, whether it's a green piece of paper or an enhanced sexual appeal because your body looks hotter because you went to the gym. Either way, it's a value exchange. You exchanged value in order to get sex. And again, no judgments, nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is. You hear cars whizzing by. That's because there are cars whizzing by. So, what's happened is that as machines take over the roles that used to be much more exclusive to men, manual labor, physical work, stuff that women generally didn't do, as machines take over these jobs, the utility and exclusivity and value in men is diminishing in the eyes of women. Why care about men when throughout history the primary reason you cared about men was because they were able to give you something you couldn't get yourself, i.e. go kill the lion, bring it back and cook it over a campfire, resources, etc. So if they don't need us anymore, if the primary value that men offered throughout history has diminished, what do women have the value in men anymore? You know, I follow a guy on Twitter. Here comes a barking dog. I follow a guy on Twitter. He's a pickup artist. His name is Roosh V. His Twitter is Roosh V. His website is returnofkings.com. Pretty cool website. And you know, he was putting out tweets yesterday about how women, they see men as nothing more than fuck toys. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. But I don't judge. See, I don't judge competition. A lot of guys, they get very bothered when they see a woman, especially the white Western woman, so competitive, so stuck up. I don't judge for two reasons. Number one, I'm competitive and stuck up myself. Because when a fat girl walks into the Starbucks I'm at, I don't look at her. That's rejection. You think the stuck-up Western woman is so evil for rejecting you? Tell me, how many fat girls do you date and have sex with? How many ugly girls do you date and have sex with? The average guy is just as much of a stuck-up, rejecting bitch as any fucking stuck-up diva white Western woman is. Period. End of story. So I don't take it personal because I reject too. We all have standards. But men, a lot of men have this blind spot. They have this weird blind spot where they feel like they're entitled to sex. Like, no, I mean, just like the fat girl isn't entitled to sex with you, you're not entitled to sex with any woman that doesn't want it. All right? I mean, could you put yourself in the shoes of a hot girl for a second? A girl who probably gets hit on 50 times a day, 60% of the guys she's repulsed by. Imagine if 60 women a day, overweight and or ugly women, every day came up to you, creepily asking, indirectly or directly, to get into your pants. By the 10th fat girl, you'd probably want to punch her in the face. So again, I don't take it personal. But it is kind of ironic. Let me throw this in real quick. As I've said before, men have the active dating role, while women have the passive dating role generally in our society. But here's the thing, it's a weird catch. Although men have the active dating role, women have to, although men have the active dating role, women, okay, this is kind of hard to articulate. Men have the active dating role. The active dating role is the expectation and idea that men are the ones who have to be the initiators. They have to be the ones who get up, go up to a girl and say, hi, what's your name, blah, 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 and try to get her pants. Sexual reproduction, what we've been doing for millions of years. Okay, thousands, whatever the fuck it is. Women have the passive dating role, where they just kind of get pretty and sit back and wait for the guy to initiate and go up to her. She kind of sits back and waits for the right guy. Now, although women have the passive dating role, they have the active rejection role. This is fascinating. Women have the passive dating role of sitting back and waiting for the right guy, but they have the active role of rejecting. They have the active role of rejection. Which means when a guy comes up to her, she has to actively reject him by telling him to fuck off, get away creeper, I hate your guts, I have a boyfriend, etc. Conversely, although men have the active dating role, they have the passive rejection role. When a fat girl walks into Starbucks, you do not have to actively reject her. You just don't look at her. It's very passive. You just don't look at her. You just don't even see her. You ignore her. You don't even look at her. The reason you have the passive one, the passive form of rejection, because the women have the passive form of dating, where they don't go up. Now, if women had the active dating role, and the fat girls were constantly going up to you, then you would have to be active in rejecting, because you'd have to actually go out of your way to say, fuck off, leave me alone, etc. So it's like weird little blind spots are created depending on which dating role we have. It's almost like because men have the active role, they don't notice that they passively reject the women they don't like. It's kind of a weird thing. So the obsolescence of men, the futility of men going forward. Well, my projection for the future is this. My projection for the future, where sexual social dynamics are taking us in accordance with our environment and technology and the liberation of society. By liberation, I mean how technology is liberating us from manual hard labor. I would say that it's going to get to a point where women are going to have essentially no need for men. Machines, technology will make life so easy for all of us that the old traditional futility of man as the provider will dissipate. Why worship man when you can worship the machines that provide us with food, electricity, society, civilization itself? Why worship man? And because women no longer need men, I think women are going to reveal that they never were very much into monogamy. They never really liked monogamy very much. Women never liked monogamy. Sure, they watched their Disney movies and the knight in shining armor, and women are always the one who claim to want the long-term relationships, and men typically have the stereotype that they don't want it. But I don't think women actually like that. What women like about this idea of monogamy or long-term relationships, what they like about it is the additional sense of security and support they get from the man who typically throughout history has been the provider of resources. But when man is no longer the provider of resources because machines do all the work for us and have made life so easy, that value, that utility in men is going to disintegrate. And women, because they no longer have to grovel to men, because men aren't, you don't have to give a guy some pussy for him to give you a fucking piece of meat. Women are going to come out, and we're all going to realize that women never really liked monogamy. They simply settled for monogamy for the sake of survival. But in reality, they liked sexual abundance and variety and fucking around just as much as any man does. This is interesting. This is interesting. And I think this is all a very good thing. This is all going to lead to a good outcome. I promise. Keep listening. And that's already happening. You can already see the signs of it. Particularly for the white privileged American woman. You can already see the signs of this unfolding. You've got pretty women who go out to clubs and bars, and increasingly women are not being in monogamous relationships. They have their own job, they have their own money, they don't need a man. They go out with their girly friends, they fuck the most masculine, assertive male they can find at bars and clubs, and then after the next day, they tell their girlfriends about it in a text. Oh my God, girlfriend, you should see this guy in there. Like, he was so fucking sexy. He just came up to me at the club. He's this confident guy. He just laid it down on me and he fucked me like crazy. Oh my God, girlfriend. Oh my God. And then they gossip about it. You're gonna hear a lot of traffic now. And so then they gossip about it. And I think that is the essence of the average American woman right now. A lot of them anyways. The average American woman who is wait for that fucker to go by. The average American woman who does not need a man, her life is work her job, make her money, at the end of the week on Friday, go shopping, then hit the club, fuck some assertive alpha douchebag. Not necessarily a douchebag. Being an assertive male doesn't really... Just because you're assertive doesn't mean you're a bad person. Fucks the ultra-assertive, self-loving, ultra-confident man. Next morning, texts her friends about it, brags how she got the fucking alpha guy. When I say alpha, I don't necessarily mean the aggressive, violent, mentally unstable, erectile dysfunction, lip dick, psychopath. By alpha, I just mean the best men. Men who are most self-loving, assertive, and confident. 3 qualities in men that I do not think are bad in any way. In fact, I think it's the duty of a man to know who he is, know what he wants, and assert himself into the world. There's a reason your penis extends out, why it asserts itself out. You have to go out. Masculine energy is intent. Masculine energy is about going outward. Masculine energy is about extending into the world, imposing yourself, imposing your will, and then actualizing your interests, actualizing your true desires. That is the essence of being a man. But again, these things are actually becoming increasingly well, actually no, let me not. I disagree with that. Not with what I just said. Everything I just said is good. That sentence I just cut myself off from saying, let me not go there, because I don't agree with that. Everything I was saying before, yes, I'm with it. So, and of course, this is not all women, but it's a lot of women, particularly the most hyper-competitive ones. So I think what's going to happen, and this is why I think it's going to be a good thing, is that humanity, once we're fully liberated from the chains of the jungle, and by that I mean ancient civilizations, no technology, no machines, no inventions, etc. When we liberate ourselves from the chains of that, we'll be able to return to our true selves. And our true selves is we'll be able to return to orgy. We'll be able to return to true self-love. We'll be able to return to no more attachments, no more neediness, no more fucking marriage nonsense where you want to tie the person down out of fear of being alone. Because that's implicit in a marriage contract. Like I was saying earlier, the very fact that you want to get married implies you fear the person may leave you, which is why the marriage contract, whether it's an official governmental legal contract or just a verbal kind of agreeable one-on-one contract, the marriage or the tied-down relationship is fundamentally based on the suspicion or expectation the person might leave you, and because you don't want to be left alone out of your own sense of inner emotional instability, your inability to be content on your own, and you leech and latch on to others, like your girlfriend or wife, you create a marriage contract to ensure that they never leave you. Till death do us part, till sickness and in health, because we are so afraid of being alone. And that's a tragedy, because in a sense we are all alone. Here's the paradox. We are all alone, but we're not really all alone. We are all alone as long as you associate love with attachment. Okay? This is big here. Because the fact is, if you take the mainstream marriage approach, long-term love, commitment approach, we're all going to end up alone. Even if you fall in love with somebody and you spend the next 80 years of your life together in a marriage, one day your partner is going to die and you will be alone. And technically you may have friends when you're 85 years old and your husband died or your wife died. You might have friends, so then you're not really alone, are you? Well, technically you still are alone. Here's why. Because even if you have friends, well, one day your friend's going to die. And if your friends don't die before you, you're going to die. Don't worry, this is all going to have a very rainbow positive outlook. It seems dark now, but don't worry, there's positivity on the end. You're going to die. And death is a lonely road. Death is a road we must all travel alone. No one ventures through the white tunnel with you. When your time comes and you pass away, you can't bring your friends or your family with you. So we're all going to be alone one day. Now, that's excluding any conversations about the afterlife, what happens after death. I'm not going to go into that. Now, again, here's where the positivity comes in. It's not all fucking dark and depressing. If it was all dark and depressing, then I would deliberately reframe it, because life is not about being depressed. The only way you believe you're alone, the only real way to say that you're alone is if you buy into these fictions of marriage and tied down, attached, codependent love. Because when you rely on other people for love, then you are truly alone, because nothing is permanent, including the people you rely on for love, your wife, whatever. The alternative approach, instead of relying on others for love, you rely on yourself for love, through self-love. When you love yourself, when you find independent emotional grounding on your own, and meditation is great for fostering this, when you find independent emotional stability through self-love, you actually end up loving everyone forever. You'll never be alone when you love yourself. Because see, that's the thing about external love. When you love others, the paradox, of course, is that if you love yourself, you can still love others. But when the foundation of love stems from yourself first and foremost, you'll never be alone. Aloneness is an interpretation. Aloneness is a judgment created by the mind, or the ego, whatever you want to call it. Yes, we can talk about an objective, empirical aloneness, but the emotional fear or depression associated with being alone, that is a mental judgment. That is a mind judgment. So, when you shift your love, or when you shift your emotional stability from others, and you put it back onto yourself first and foremost, you get the only real kind of love there is. Because to me, most love, modern love, is psychotic. Okay? Turn on the radio and listen to these pop songs that talk about fucking love 24/7. I love you this, I love you that. Everything. Most pop culture songs are about love, but they are a psychotic, parasitic, destructive form of love. It's not true love. It's needy, codependent, I want to use you as a heroin drug kind of love. Do you think those people really love each other? When you break up with a person because they change, or maybe they want to love somebody else, or they have an interest for somebody else, you think that when you get jealous and you want to see that person get destroyed, you call that love? No, obviously you only love them on the premise that they gave you what you selfishly wanted for yourself. Validation, appreciation, attention, do what I say, obedience, etc. And we call that love. The mainstream interpretation of love is the very opposite of love. In fact, it's not unconditional love, it's the most conditional love there is. The love is so conditional that it basically says, I only love you if you love me back. If you're loyal to me. You can't have sex with anybody else but me, mine, my own, my precious. Right? You get it. I don't want I don't want to be too dramatic, because I am walking down a public sidewalk in a dark neighborhood. I don't want anyone to think a rapist is on the loose. So I'm not going to get too animated here, but you get it, right? I've always thought the Lord of the Rings was like a subliminal metaphor for marriage. Lord of the Rings, Gollum is obsessed with the one ring. In marriage, you got to put the one ring on the finger. Mine, my own, my precious. You know, Gollum says that. It's almost like Gollum's obsession with a ring. It's very similar to the average person's love obsession in marriage and the ring, the contract that they put into their loved ones. When you put the ring on the woman's finger, you're essentially saying, mine, my own, my precious, right? It's yours and it's yours only. It can't be anybody else's. That's essentially what the marriage contract is. So I think in a way, Lord of the Rings is kind of a metaphor for marriage. It's kind of cool, actually. So that's the antithesis of true love. It's not unconditional love. It's the most conditional form of love. It's so conditional, you sign a marriage contract with legal terms and conditions that may apply. How conditional is that love? There literally are terms and conditions that may apply in the fine print of the legal contract. That's the perversion of love. And that's not true love. Because that's love that tries to find love externally. That's love that says, I'm not going to first love myself. I'm going to try to get love by latching on to somebody else and have them tell me they love me. I'm not going to develop the emotional groundedness and stability to love myself first and foremost without the need for external validation. I'm going to meet somebody else and hope they just tell me they love me. And then I don't have to go through the hard work of setting my own standards of love for myself. Hey, she loves me, right? And then one day she will die, or he will die. 80 years down the road, they will pass away, and you'll be alone. And then who's going to love you then? You didn't learn to love yourself. Your wife or your husband died after 80 years. Now what? And again, not trying to get depressing here. And I will unite this all up in a very positive light in a moment. And yes, it's going to tie back into what I was saying a moment ago. So that's not true love, in my opinion. True love is self-love, first and foremost. I mean, how insane is it? Whoever thought it was a good idea that when you're looking for love in life, you would bypass yourself? This is the externalization of everything. Everybody's looking outward. Even like mainstream science, scientific materialism specifically, looking outward. Where is the truth? It's got to be out there in the universe somewhere in the quantum particles that keep disappearing every time I look at them. We look outward too much for answers in everything in life. Even for love. When love, you have to first love yourself. Because if it wasn't for yourself, being conscious and alive in the first place, you wouldn't even be able to love anybody else. How could you love anybody else if you're not even conscious and alive in the first place? You have to be conscious to love. So what happens? What happens when you love yourself first and foremost? Well, you no longer, like a crack addict, look out into the world to find somebody else to validate your existence. You no longer have to go out into the world to find somebody who will validate your existence by telling you, I love you, baby. Or saying, I'll stay with you till death do us part. You no longer have to do that. And then all the other negative side effects that come with that kind of futile rat race is that you no longer become needy, you no longer become attached, you no longer want to control people. She's my wife. She's mine. Where were you? Who was that guy you were talking to? Let me see your text messages. Urgh. This is love? This is not love. This is a mental disorder. And I don't mean that in the clinical sense. The clinical approach to a mental disorder, quote unquote, is something beyond your control. It's fucked up biological problems in your brain. It's a mental condition or disorder outside of your control. No. I mean, if you read the book, The Brain That Changes Itself, about neuroplasticity, it documents quite extensively how the brain literally, physically transforms based on your conscious will or intent. The brain is not some set in stone, eugenicist, survival of the fittest, we're all doomed to our genes outlook. The brain is quite malleable. Plastic is the word for it. It's malleable. Neuroplasticity. Because the brain is so malleable, it can be changed. So I wouldn't say, when I say mental disorder, I don't mean like it's something outside of your control. I simply mean it's it's something that you set in stone, that you can control, that you set in stone. Not really in stone, you set in plasticity, I guess you could say. So to me, the modern mainstream concept of love is the opposite of love. And when you step out of that paradigm, you realize that the only healthy, true kind of love has to be self-love first and foremost. When you love yourself, you don't want to control other people in order to feel a sense of security. It takes away all the envy, jealousy. It doesn't mean you can't have connections with people. It doesn't mean you can't connect with people. It doesn't mean you can't cooperate. But it does mean that the neediness goes out of the interactions. The neediness, the impulse to control, the desire to hold people down in a marriage contract or any kind of contract, whether it's formal or informal, that goes away. And then you actually get what I would say is a true healthy kind of love. A true healthy kind of love is, first and foremost, you start from a foundation of self-love where you are emotionally content on your own. You can literally have no friends, no family. You can move to the mountains of fucking Tibetan mountains, and meditate there for the next 90 years, and you'll be happy. I know that's pretty extreme, and I personally do not have that level of emotional dependence, but it's certainly, in theory, something that's worth striving for. You want to be happy on your own, first and foremost, and then you don't have to go to the mountains of Tibet. Okay, you can cultivate that now in everyday practical life. The point is that you learn to be content on your own first, and that way you don't want to control other people. Some of the most disturbed, psychotic tyrants throughout history, people who want to control other people, are subliminally admitting that they have no control over themselves, or that they have no grounding in their own lives. The first ones obsessed about controlling and micromanaging and nanny-stating the behavior of other people, the tyrants, the 1984 overseers, those are the fucking people you can be guaranteed have the least amount of internal emotional stability. You can be guaranteed sure of that. I know it's quite a lengthy conversation, but I will tie it all in. So, yes, we're going to return, I think, when society truly becomes liberated. When machines and technological advances get to a point where we really are just like, life is easy, at least on a physical level. This will also liberate women. And I think it's going to reveal that women never really liked monogamy so much, but they chose it because they needed to negotiate sex with a man for his resources. As that diminishes, I think what we're going to realize is that women never like monogamy, that they like sexual variety and abundance, and that they probably want to fuck around with a bunch of different people and get variety in life as anybody else. Doesn't mean you can't want to be in a single relationship. You can have a connection with somebody that you're so attracted and you're so compatible that you actually do stay together forever. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, why are you doing it? Why are you staying together forever? If you're staying together forever because you're emotionally unstable and lonely and you're trying to latch off and leech off another person, then that's shit. Because it's not true love. It's really just a heroin addiction to the emotional stability somebody else gives you by validating you every time they say, I love you, baby. And of course, to me, true love isn't this neediness. True love is when you love yourself, and because you love yourself and you're content, there's no need to control other people. And that's when you free people. You free people, you free yourself, and you free everybody else. When you free yourself from the shackles of needing other people, you free other people from the shackles of you needing them. Your neurotic, impulsive habits to control them and manipulate them for your own will. And we all become free. We all become free to just be ourselves. And every now and again, when you love yourself and you're being yourself, every now and again, your dick will fall inside of a warm, fresh vagina. Or if you're a woman, a dick will fall into your warm, fresh vagina. Either way, the point is that just because you're independent emotionally doesn't mean you can't have interactions and connections with people. It's not a needy form of connection. It's not a possessive, controlling, manipulative form of connection. It's the only type of love I can think of, because it stems first and foremost from love of yourself, but then you have the dignity or you have the respect for other people that you don't want to control them. You just want to have a mutual, healthy, non-needy, non-self-destructive relationship. So I don't think women actually do like monogamy. I think women like variety. Why not? Why wouldn't a woman? I mean, if a woman loves you and you only, supposedly, she loves your dick. If she loves getting fucked by you and just every fucking... Why wouldn't she like another dick? She likes one man. I mean, I like one Pink Floyd CD. I also like other Pink Floyd CDs. I also like other artists. I like variety. You like one man, one penis. There's no reason you might not like another man, another penis. So I don't, this thing, I think this is a myth. The myth that women like monogamy. The myth that women only want tied down relationships. I really believe that they probably like sexual variety as much as anybody else, but because they've been generally the weaker gender, particularly on a physical level, because they couldn't get resources for themselves or they were less capable of doing so, or because society in general deemed it wasn't their role to do it, so I would argue that there's an evolutionary basis for this. It was only because they needed men on an evolutionary level for resources that they served him and stuck with one guy for their own survival motives. But if we talk about ideally what women want, I think they would not like monogamous relationships. They would like sexual variety just as much as men. You know, it's this myth that women don't like sex. It's this myth that men are the only truly sexually aroused, or the only ones who really want or go after. I think that's nonsense. I think women are just as probably much sexually interested as men are. Of course, the problem is that it goes back to the codependency problem. It goes back to the fact that women were financially, resourcefully dependent on men for probably 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years. That codependency was the foundation for monogamy. And if they didn't really need men, would they still be monogamous? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Now, this realization is important because what it shows is women would probably most probably would prefer orgies and rampant sexual abundance as much as anybody else, as much as the next man. And I think that what's going to happen is we're going to reach a point of liberation for all people, where not only will men be independent, but so will women. And we could all be who we truly want to be, instead of pretending to be something we're not for the sake of mere survival. To me, that's where the true liberation will be. And I think in that, it's all pushing us towards individual independence. We're all kind of being pushed towards, we're all evolving towards and progressing towards individual independence. That's where we're all kind of going right now. Women can be independent to be who they want to be. Men can be independent to be who they want to be. You know, one of the great things is that if it turns out that, you know, women no longer need men in terms of finances and basic survival, then that'll probably eliminate, hopefully, I say hopefully, would eliminate the need for marriage. And I think the end of marriage is a great thing. Fuck marriage. Fuck marriage. I mean, I just elaborated every reason why I say fuck marriage, but fuck marriage again. I just went over the whole thing, but yes, fuck marriage. Marriage, and it's so often marriage is just, it's done for tax purposes. Oh, let me marry him because I'll get a fucking tax cut. You know, I'll get some deductions because I'm married. I mean, how sick is that? That's not love, that's necessity. That's desperation. That's not love, that's necessity, that's desperation. Fuck marriage. And if there's no marriage, if women don't need men for money, so they can be who they truly are, and men can be who they truly are, I think what we're going to return to a state of orgy. We're going to return to a state where people fuck whoever they want to fuck. We don't get tied down marriages for the sake of fucking tax deductions, or because we're emotionally unstable, or because women need a man in order to get through the day, in order just to eat something. We're going to be free. We're not going to be in these needy, collectivistic, emotionally codependent pseudo-relationships. People are going to be free to be people. Individuals are going to be free to be individuals. You as a guy don't have to get married. You don't have to fucking sacrifice your life's destiny because you got to spend 30 hours a week tending to a wife. For fuck's sake. I mean, goddamn if a wife isn't a fucking part-time job. You gotta listen to her. You have to obey her orders when she tells you to take out the fucking trash. You got to, you know, she says don't go out with your friends past midnight. You gotta do it. You know, just nagging. Not all women, but a lot. And it's not all relationships, but a lot. Particularly in a relationship where a man is not grounded in himself. He's weak and vulnerable enough to be manipulated by a woman. It's the beta males, sadly. But beta males can improve themselves. I used to be pretty beta. A few years ago, I was pretty beta. Man, was I pretty fucked. I was putridly beta. Ugh. Gross. Vomit. Snapped out of that trance. Reconnected with my masculinity. Realized that women actually like you more the more you connect with your masculinity. And it's been a great experience ever since. My life is on a trajectory towards greatness. I've never been more free and happy. More free and happy. It just feels great to not be needy. To not need others or have someone else who needs you to comply with their fucking petty emotional demands. So I think this is ultimately going to liberate people. You know, a Red Pill Philosophy viewer shared a link on my Facebook page the other day. It was basically some article written by some woman. Some woman wrote an article, and in the article she's like, the 10 reasons your girlfriend dumped your ass. Some shit like that. And, you know, the 10 reasons are like, you don't go down on me. Or you don't go down on her. Or you're a loser. Or you have no hobbies. Or you're boring. Or you don't fucking shower. Like all these just painfully stinging things. And I remember reading that, and the Red Pill viewer, he seemed kind of, you know, annoyed by the article. he shared it with me like saying, well, you know what? Men can give just as many similar reasons for why they should dump their girlfriends. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It goes both ways. You can come up with 10 reasons why your boyfriend left you. Because you're fat, because you're stupid, because you nag, because you're pathetic, because you're uncreative, because you're useless, etc. I mean, they can be applied to women. The point is to not get into these petty, stupid fucking, these just competitive little man versus woman, stupid fucking quarrels. Stupid shit. Dumb shit, man. You know, it's like when a woman doesn't need a man, what does a woman find sexually attractive in a man? And that, here's funny, this is going to get deep. You know, we have this idea that women like resources. We have this idea that women like money and resources, survival of the fittest, whoever can provide the most, resources for the woman, that's the one who got the woman, and then he's the one who got his offspring. And that's such bullshit. Because, if anything, look at the work of pickup artists. A lot of pickup artists, they've proven that women don't give a fuck about a lot of the surface level bullshit like money or social status. And that, again, this goes back to my original point. It's not that women wanted to be in a monogamous relationship. It's because they had to for the sake of resources. Do women like a man with resources, truly? Or do they just settle for a man with resources because the woman needs his resources to get through the day, to survive? But ideally, what would a woman want? I would say, ideally, what a woman wants is a real man. And a man is not measured by how much fucking money he has, or by his social status or whatever. A man is measured, to me, by how true he is to his true self. Who are you truly? A, first and foremost, A, who are you truly? And B, do you honor and assert that true self to the best of your abilities? And to me, the better you can assert that true self, the more women are going to fucking love you. The more women are going to love you. That's the essence of masculinity. If you break it down to a metaphysical level, to the fundamental forces of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, masculinity versus femininity, the masculine polarity versus the feminine polarity. Masculinity is about asserting yourself into the world. Femininity is about yielding and receiving the assertion of someone else. That's why even in homosexual relationships, they're not really truly homosexual. Sure, there's two men or two women. Let's go with two men. Sure, there's two men in a homosexual relationship. But even in a homosexual relationship, they still have the masculine and feminine dynamics. Look at any homosexual relationship where there's still sexual chemistry. Because for me, a relationship without sex is not a relationship in the terms of sexual partners. It's a friendship. It's just a friendship where you guys are always together. Well, what I mean by relationship is two people who are together and they still have sex. Okay? Even in homosexual relationships, still having sex, there's always a masculine and a feminine. There has to be. There's always one partner who wears the pants and one who is more feminine. There's always one who's more masculine, one who's more feminine. Look at any fucking relationship. Every homosexual relationship I've ever seen, there's always a masculine and a feminine. Even in two male relationships or two female relationships. Ellen DeGeneres, she clearly is the man in the relationship. She's funny. She wears fucking male-looking outfits. Ellen DeGeneres' wife is this beautiful goddess who's very feminine. Ellen is masculine. Her wife is feminine. Countless gay couples I've seen in my personal life, always one who's yielding and feminine and one who's assertive and masculine. You can't have sexual attraction without one or the other. So what a woman really wants isn't a guy's resources. Wow, this is fascinating. I'm having a paradigm shift right now as I speak. That's what it's going to do. When women become liberated, when women no longer need men for their resources because women become independent, Men no longer have to scramble for fucking money or status or how many guys did I beat up or kill. All these petty, insecure medals that men acquire in the hopes a woman will love them. Because women no longer need resourcefulness and dominance out of a man, women can just love a man for what they really like in a man, which is just basic, raw masculinity. Not his fucking bank account. Sexual attraction doesn't need a fucking bank account, okay? Sexual attraction has been happening since the dawn of fucking time, okay? It doesn't know bank accounts. It doesn't know financial statements. It doesn't know status or fame. Fuck, it barely even knows what the fuck, good looks are. Alright, you think your penis, your basic biology that has been evolving since before the concept of fashion ever fucking existed, you think your penis gives a fuck? Alright, what a woman looks like? Alright, it's about masculine versus feminine. Is the woman feminine? She could be overweight. She could be not the prettiest girl. If she's feminine, there's a chance for a spark of attraction. As long as you're masculine, she's feminine, the spark is there. The spark is so primordial and basic that it's even found in homosexual relationships between a man and a man, or a man or a man or a man, or a woman and a woman. Even in homosexual relationships, the basic primordial spark of masculine versus feminine attraction still exists. Think about that shit. So to me, the liberation of women, when they no longer need a man for his resources, means that women aren't going to judge you for your fucking resources. In fact, I don't think women give a fuck about your resources. They don't give a fuck about your bank account, how much money. Sure, some do. But again, that's because they're in a desperate survival situation and they want money. They want to get by. But if women become independent and they no longer need a man for his money, the question is, will men become obsolete? Will women just buy fucking dildos and get fucked by electronic sex machines and say fuck all men? No, they still want a man. But this is about realizing that a woman never wanted you for your resources in the first place. She just wanted your basic masculinity. That's a simple, playful thing that is fundamental to human beings. Alright? Kids, you want to know how kids play? Kids play with toys. Kids play at the playground. You want to know how adults play? Adults play by having sex. Adults play by having sex. That's how we return to our origins, to our basicness. Because, hey, what could be more basic than sex? You wouldn't exist if it wasn't for your parents having sex. Sex is the action of creation. It's the action foundation of life. So I'm just going to take a moment here to absorb in my environment. Got the crickets cricketing out here in the park. Not sure if you could hear them. It's a soccer field about 100 yards away from me. Brightly lit under giant stadium lights. Not a full out stadium, it's just like stadium lights lighting up a few soccer fields. It's about 7 o'clock now, I suppose. A bunch of kids running around practicing soccer. That's about it. There's very few other people out here in the park at night. It's fucking peaceful, man. It's beautiful. Beautiful to be alive. Beautiful to be here. It's a wonderful experience. I mean, what is this thing? Wonderful experience to be alive. What is life? The question is dumb, I think. Honestly, I've pondered the question for so long, it really didn't do anything to me, but make me all anxious about life. I don't think the point of life is to question it. That's an analytical, ego-based, judgmental approach to the wonder of life. Instead, live life. Be here. Just be here. Be. Accept. This is it. Do what it is. Do what it is. This is it. Immerse yourself in life. Meet people. Talk to people. Explore other people's consciousness. This is a magical, magical thing. I don't know it. I don't know the ultimate answers, if there even is such a thing. I just know I have a biological body. It gets hungry. It has to shit, piss, certainly has to ejaculate, and it has to breathe, blink, and you know what? I accept it. My biological body takes precedent over any fucking petty little thoughts my mind comes up with. My mind, always trying to find the answer. What are we doing here? What's the point of life? It never shuts the fuck up. Fuck that. Be. Do. Experience. So yes, even if men do become obsolete in terms of women needing us to survive, they're still going to love us. They're still going to love us because women don't like your resources. And this is a thing that like pickup artists have proven for a long time. And you know, the average woman that goes out to a club on a Friday night after her work week, you know, you think she's vetting a guy. You think she's going to have a one-night stand with a guy. She's worried about how much money he has. It's a one-night stand. And less, more than ever before, the woman doesn't need the guy for his money. So if the woman doesn't need the guy for his money, why does she care if you have money? She's looking for that raw, basic masculinity. She's looking for the confidence. She's looking for the assertiveness. She's looking for the self-love. She's looking for how grounded and at ease you are with yourself. And from that at easeness, you can assert your raw, basic male masculinity. You don't need money for that. You don't need money for that. You don't need a fucking stupid ass shiny car. You don't need a big fucking bank account. You don't need a bunch of social status, fame. You don't need 1,000 fucking Facebook friends. You just need to be a man. And a man is not what we've been told it is. A man is not this insecure piece of shit scrambling to accumulate money and a shiny car in the hopes a woman will reciprocate with sex. That is the antithesis of a man. That is a coward hiding behind money and resources in order to bribe a woman into fucking him. That is not a man. That's a pussy. That's a coward who's so afraid he's desperate and resorts to being this brooding, violent psychopath with neurotic issues who can't get an erection. Because newsflash, it's a very common trait among alpha males. That's a misnomer. They're not really alpha. Borderline psychotic, violent psycho men, often, this is so common, I've experienced it from a personal story. A friend of mine told me about some quote-unquote alpha, not really alpha, just, you know, something alpha about not being able to get your dick up. These violent psychopath men. I've heard it from multiple, both in public stories, the Christy Mack case, War Machine. Her boyfriend, War Machine, couldn't get an erection, and he was this crazy, violent, wife-beater type dude. As well as personal story from a friend of mine told me that this brooding, violent psychopath could not get a fucking erection. There's nothing alpha about not being able to get an erection, yet these men masquerade like they're the true men. Bullshit. They're the most agitated, inept fools who rely on money and how many fucking people did I beat up? You like me now? This fucking eugenicist, social Darwinistic, evolutionary, psychosis perspective on life. If you can't get your dick up, you're not a fucking alpha male. We're going to have to redefine alpha male. So yeah, that's what it is, y'all. That's what it is. So I guess that's the rainbow at the end of the harrowing journey of this podcast. The rainbow is that you can be a man. You can no longer feel like you're nothing because you didn't win the rigged economic game and get enough green pieces of paper. You no longer have to be a pseudo-man where your confidence depends on whether or not you have money or a shiny fucking car. You can be a real man. When a woman doesn't need you for resources because she's independent and makes her own money, she doesn't give a fuck if you make money anymore. She wants to see the real man in you. And the real man doesn't hide behind his bank account because he's too afraid to just put his true vulnerable manliness on the fucking line. Who are you fundamentally? What is your true nature? You're a basic man with a masculine polarity asserted into the world. A man who needs a bank account or a shiny car to do that is a fucking coward with crutches. I'm not trying to insult you, I'm just trying to point out facts. And that you can improve yourself. And of course, all this is going to lead to a more peaceful world. This is why I say it's going to be like we're returning to orgy. Because I think that, you know, and there's a lot of interesting evidence for this. If you read Christopher Ryan's book called Sex at Dawn, he talks about how there's a lot of evidence that in past cultures, men and women were actually not monogamous, but that they were actually, they took part in, you know, crazy orgies. People would just have crazy orgies. Like tribes of people, they would just have orgies. There was no marriage. You weren't just stuck with one person. Sex was abundantly just shared. I think we're returning to that. We're returning to that orgy state, that natural orgy state, where we no longer judge people on the basis of money and superficial bullshit because we're independent. See, back then we were independent, but in a codependent kind of way. In basic tribes where sex was abundantly shared, the evidence for this is pretty extensive. Read Christopher Ryan's book, Sex at Dawn. Everybody was just sharing everything. We shared resources, we shared shelter, we shared connection, support, and we shared sex. Sex was just shared abundantly. But over time, we lost that. People started to become independent. We didn't want to be just all kumbaya. We wanted to have our own private property with my own little home, my own this, and my own bank account, and my own income source, and it's just mine and my own kids. And that approach brought a lot of competition and divisiveness, a lot of which gave birth to, I need to prove myself better than the other man, so let me make more money, get a faster, shinier car, let me take a bunch of steroids so I have more muscles, let me look cuter or hotter, let me make a bunch of money, etc. But what's happening, ironically, as we moved away from these kumbaya, you know, orgy kind of non-monogamous social structures, we became independent and divisive, and then that independent and divisiveness, because it ostracized women from the support structure of the tribe or the kumbaya collective, women then became dependent on a single man and his money, so women settled for the man and his money. She didn't really like necessarily his money, she settled for his money. Her sexual attraction for him was not necessarily based on his money, she just settled for the money or the resources because she needed it to survive. But now we become so independent that even women are independent. So individualistic over time that now women are individualistic. They have their own income source too. And now that we've fully kind of been replaced into independence, because again, at first in these tribal kind of communal, you know, society structures that were common many years ago, primarily before the rise of agriculture, according to Christopher Ryan's research in his book Sex at Dawn, people were independent in the sense that they were being taken care of. You could get through life just fine, but it was through collective communal interactions and cooperation. But we've moved away from that into this private property, independent, have my own house, my own income. Everybody, you don't care about your neighbors. You only care about your immediate family. You don't care about everybody around you. You only care about the people in your home. You know, if you're watching the news one day and they report, oh, today a man died in a car crash, you don't even fucking think about it. But if the news report says today a man died in a car crash, his name was John Smith, and John Smith is your dad, and you hear the news, suddenly you break down crying. We only care about the tight-knit community of people, not even community, just the 5 people in our family and our close friends. But the moment we're driving to work one day and there's a car stopped on the side of the road, no one fucking stops and helps the person. But if it was your fucking uncle on the side of the road, you'd probably stop and help him. We only care about a handful of people. The strict individualism branching off from that foundation, presumably, of communal cooperation. Society has become very individualistic. Now it's becoming so individualistic that women are becoming independent and individualistic with their own money, their own income, as well as with technology making things easier for everybody. Men are being replaced by robots, essentially. They're so individualistic now that we've actually come full circle. Because now that women don't need men for the resources, because they were, exclusive just to the men who can get them when we moved away from communal, tribal, social structures. Now that we moved away from that, we've actually come full circle because women are independent again, and they could actually like men for what men really are. They could actually like men for what they always really liked the man for. So now the woman, at the end of the work week, she makes her money. She goes out to the club. She has a one-night stand with a guy. She doesn't give a fuck about how much money he makes because she's making her own money. She just wants to have sex with a guy, with a man, with basic masculinity. So you see what's happening here. We've kind of come full circle. And this is why I think it's going to be a better future. Because men are going to be allowed to be men. Women are going to be allowed to be women. People can return to their basic, what they really like sex for, which is connecting with the polarity, the masculine or feminine polarity inside of you, and expressing and asserting that, and enjoying that. So to me, it's just come full circle. To me, it's almost like we all just want to look at each other and admit, man, we all love each other, man. Why can't we all just work together? Man, why can't we all just love each other? Why the hostility? Why the tensions? We all just want to say that, but we don't want to say that because vulnerability requires the most courage. Vulnerability takes the biggest balls. We have this idea that being vulnerable is cowardice. Go read up Brene Brown's work. Daring Greatly is one of her books. Or you can go check out her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability. Brene Brown, B-R-E-N-E, Brown. Her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, is a good start. She talks about, she just talks about how vulnerability is true courage. True courage is being able to put your true self on the line. Put your shield down. I mean, what could be more courageous than putting down your shield and being open to attack and getting destroyed? You might call it dumb, but it certainly takes a degree of balls to do that. I think we don't want to put our shields down. We don't want to put our guards down. We don't want to become vulnerable. Vulnerability means accepting ourselves and accepting everybody. And in that is this communal love, where people aren't hoarding and dividing, but instead we're all just kind of exchanging and cooperating. And to me, a communal, exchanging and cooperating society is one where orgies run rampant. Just orgies happen. Whether you're just, fucking 10 people just having fucking orgies, or just 2 people or having sex with multiple different partners. And that's what's happening today. We live in an orgy society, but it's kind of kept under the table because half the population can't tolerate thinking that that's happening because they're still coming from the old paradigm. You don't think it's an orgy? When you go to a club is an orgy. A club is just the party before the orgy, essentially, because you got so many different people having sex with so many different people, all right? And I don't mean like one person having sex with 40 people a night. I just mean one person going out, once every weekend, maybe meets a person once a month, in a few years, you've had sex with many different people. Might as well be a fucking orgy. You're having sex with so many different people. It's certainly not monogamy. It's certainly not, lose your virginity to the guy you marry and stay with the rest of your life. Compared to monogamy, it's a gigantic orgy. We're moving back to that because people don't want to be judgmental. People want to love and experience life. Women too, I think. Women don't give a fuck about a man's money. They just want his straight up masculinity. When a woman is in touch with her femininity, she yearns for that man. When a woman is in touch with her femininity, she yearns for that fucking man. She just becomes receptive to it. It's in the nature of femininity to want some man to just come and be like, hey, that thing. So, yeah, I don't think men are going to become obsolete. What's going to become obsolete is the pseudo-man shit, the fake man bullshit, the fucking status, the bank account, the nice car, shiny car bullshit. It's no longer going to be needed. The liberated woman is a woman who doesn't need all the fucking petty bullshit that men thought they needed to attract a woman in a hyper-competitive, divisive world where you as a man had to make your own individual path, get your own house with your own income, your own family, because we moved away from communal, working together society structures into competitive, working against each other. Fuck you, I'm going to get ahead, Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a little paradigm shift at the end there. Battery's still good. About an hour and 25 minutes. Pretty good. So thanks you guys for tuning in. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I guess let me pose a question to you guys. I find an interesting question. How about this? What do you guys think? Do you guys think that a liberated woman is a bad thing? I don't personally. But do you think it's a bad thing, like women are going to hate men? Or do you think it's like I say, it's going to be that women actually just start to like men for what they really like men, which is basic masculinity? They no longer like a man for his money because they don't need his money. I mean, this sounds like liberation for everybody. This sounds like great news for everybody involved. If she doesn't need your money anymore, that's a great thing. Because she's not going to judge you on whether or not you can fucking pay her fucking bills. You can buy her a dumb fucking purse. This is great news as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, guys, leave your comments below. Later.